And just so you know, the Bible does not command, and this is what Tucker Carlson is getting to in that clip, it absolutely does not command you to support the modern state of Israel. Like Genesis is pointing to the modern 1948 created state of Israel, created state of Israel, created state of Israel. And this is when he gets to explaining that he believes there is a theological basis for us to be married to Israel's foreign policy. Take a listen.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the...
It's in Genesis. But so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two...
Hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But what? Hold on. Define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
So is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the descendants
God's
of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is.
And I'm really happy he said that, because when you hear it, you realize how ridiculous it sounds. Even if you're not following the theology, if you don't identify as a Christian, you realize that you have a senator that is sitting across saying that his number one reason, he didn't say one of the reasons, he said my number one reason that I support Israel is because the Bible commands me to do so. And just so you know, the Bible does not command, and this is what Tucker Carlson is getting to in that clip, it absolutely does not command you to support the modern state of Israel. Like Genesis is pointing to the modern 1948 created state of Israel, and you must support it despite the fact that it is very much involved in what can only be described as demonic behavior since its creation, right? And so you're going to ignore every other biblical passage. You're going to misinterpret this one. It's a dispensationalist heresy. Dispensationalist heresy, which was factually funded by the World Zionist Congress. And we can do another episode on that as I present to you guys all of the evidence that what it guided the notations. This really stems from the Scofield Bible, the heresy of the Scofield Bible. Scofield himself was an absolute fraud who got funded and was overseas and alleges that he wrote all of these notes in the Bible and is telling people how to read their Bibles. The first time that notations were put underneath the passages. So this is what Genesis says, and this is what it means. And this is how this heresy arrived in America. Then somehow this guy is able to, it becomes the most printed book, and Oxford Press gets behind it because like a random pastor. You get the idea here. It was very much a funded effort to have Christians misunderstand the Bible. And Ted Cruz is one of these Christians. And so he says this is number one reason that he supports what they're doing. So he is willing to support the criminality of Benjamin Netanyahu because he's just in the land of Israel. He's saying it's the nation state of Israel. By that argument, if suddenly the current Israelis in Israel all left and we put in a bunch of Iranians, then he would say the same thing because it's a place, right? So Ted Cruz would say, my Bible commands me, I will be blessed. I bless those who bless Israel. He's talking about a place, a physical place, and anybody could be in there and he would back it. It's an absolute nonsense for him to suggest this. And like I said, it's also a theological disaster, and it's so important for people to learn the history, the true history of the Scofield Bible and this sort of modern dispensationalist belief, which has been so toxic to our foreign policy and has been pushed in large part. It's even the hyphening of Judeo-Christian values. I'm a Christian. I'm not Jewish. I am a Christian. My values are Christian, and frankly, you should believe that a country which has involved itself, as Israel has, in blackmail, in murder, in bombing children, in murdering and starving women and children to get what it wants, the deception. And I mean, you could talk about it on a widespread level, you could talk about it on a historical level, you could talk about it on a molecular or a personal level. It is like a requirement to support Zionism. You just have to lie. You have to lie like all the time. I mean, they are just every day pushing this idea that I'm funded by Qatar. Not a shred of proof. It's completely false. It is untrue. And they say it every day because they have no other arguments. All they have to do is keep hoping that people like Senator Ted Cruz, especially if they're being funded by AIPAC, will completely misinterpret the Genesis and believe that no matter what, they have to support the policies of Bibi Netanyahu, which not even the Israelis support, right? They don't even support him. They're protesting against him in wartime. So that's very, it should terrify you, frankly. It should terrify you.
Let's be clear. Reading the testimony of survivors of October 7th from Kibbutz Be'eri, like Yasmin Porat, was extremely harrowing. What she alleges is not only that her husband was killed in the initial takeover, but also she then says that the Israeli military tanks fired on the room where the hostages were, killing 12 Israeli civilian captives. We have also seen fantastic work in the Haaretz newspaper by Amos Harel, where he speaks at length about Brigadier General Rosenfeld, who was in charge of the Eretz crossing. Now, when this military base was taken over, what he says, Amos Harel in Haaretz, the well-known Israeli newspaper, he says that Rosenfeld, when he realized that the base was overtaken, called in an airstrike. This is in Haaretz. These are not my words. These are the words of Amos Harel. What we then saw is, since October the 7th, 22 Israeli civilian detainees killed in Gaza by Israeli airstrikes.
If Israel would tell them, we're going to destroy you, and there are no conditions, there's nothing you can say that's going to stop us, then what do they need the hostages for?
But Amalek also just killed.
That's why we just have to kill them.
So they're gonna kill our hostages either way.
So where does that leave us? See what they are? If they say you can't bomb us, you're going to kill the hostages. So we're helpless. We can't do that. We are not helpless. We're going to do what we're going to do.
The Israeli military has something called the Hannibal Directive. The Hannibal Directive was developed in Lebanon in the 80s by the Israelis with the clear understanding that they do not want the other side to take hostages. So, for example, you have the case of Hada Golding in 2014, what Israel called Operation Protective Edge, which killed over 2,200 Palestinians. But when this Israeli soldier was taken captive by the Palestinians, Israel then proceeded to kill everyone, including the civilians in the area around where he was kept and the soldier himself. So what Israel has, unfortunately, is a policy of killing captives.
We're gonna make history. We're gonna change how everything is gonna look, and we're gonna do it right.
From the Jordan River to the Middle East, that's all ours. It was promised to us. There's no Palestinian nation. No one wants them, so why we? Because we are good. We finished to be good 3 weeks ago.
I think the bombing is good. I think they should have a lot more of the bombing, the bombarding. I think we can do a lot more inside of Gaza. It's a fight between the good and the bad, the good and the evil.
The only innocent people that are in Gaza now are the 229 hostages that were taken. Once they will go back to Israel, we will bomb Shifa Hospital, all the hospitals, all the tunnels, and kill them all.
We just have to accept that whatever they do, no matter how toxic and horrible and demonic it is, it's perfectly acceptable because God is going to bless you if you bless this land. Yeah, God wanted you to leave us with a 1948 real estate problem. It's completely ridiculous for them to be making this argument. And so when you see them go at it, and there's more clips that are coming out, and do you have, there's also one more clip, you know that eventually Ted Cruz, and I did not even see this until a couple of minutes ago, you know eventually Ted Cruz is just gonna go where the Zionists go, which is, okay, I don't have an argument anymore, but now I have to imply that you're anti-Semitic if you don't support Bibi Netanyahu, right? This intentional conflation of Israel, the foreign nation, with the Jews. And lo and behold, he does it. Take a listen.
It's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel, when we're talking about foreign countries,
hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese, you're not talking about Japanese, you're not talking about the Brits, you're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews?
Senator,
what about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now.
Senator, you're asking the questions, Tucker. You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that, and I have
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but of my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it, or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking you.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran. And so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about Iran or the
If I can finish, you asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Okay. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise, and I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions in a straightforward, rational way? You certainly have the IQ to do it.
So shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
It is. It's not cute. I'm offended.
I'm
obsessed with the Jews. You just told me
you just called me a sleazy feline.
It is sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite for asking questions about how my government is run.
You want to count how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about AIPAC?
I never asked about the Jews. This has nothing to do with the Jews, whatever that means. This has to do with a foreign government. And once again, shame on you for conflating the two.
Yeah, they're doing all the tricks, and there actually is this former Israeli minister. I think her name is Shalamut, and she's on camera saying that this is a trick that we use. Like, if all else fails, if anybody questions Israel, we just call them anti-Semitic. And so this is like right from the handbook, with the Zionist handbook, which is like, if something we do is so indefensible, say that people noticing is obsession, and that it's because they hate Jews. It's the oldest hatred in the book. You just hate Jews.
The American Jewish Committee says anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. Here it is.
There's outrageous amounts of anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, anti-Jew.
Whatever the worst thing to be in society at the time, that's what the Jews are labeled as.
Colonizer, genocider.
That's modern anti-Semitism.
And that's a worldwide problem.
Anti-Semitism has no place in our world.
My name is Ariel Martin.
Dylan Gold.
Jennifer Jason Lee.
And I stand with Israel.
And the Jewish people.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Okay, so anti-Zionism is anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. All of that is anti-Jew. They're saying it's a worldwide problem, right? Because the world is criticizing Israel right now because they are colonizers. The world is criticizing Israel right now because they are colonizers.
The world is criticizing Israel right now because they are colonizers.
They are committing crimes against humanity. So we're not allowed to say any of that. So basically, if you say anything against Israel at all, then you are anti-Semitic.
It's like, no, you are taking billions of dollars from us every year and you're demanding that we get involved in your Middle Eastern conflict. Of course, we have a right to talk about Israel. And like I said, you will see this over and over again. And when people decide, I'm actually not offended by that because I know it's not true. And I know that it's basically a really poor debate tactic, it's an ad hominem attack, and they seek to become more educated about the state of Israel, the more that you discover, the more indefensible it becomes. Case in point, I'll give you something that happened in the past. You guys remember when Kyrie Irving?
I went on the Amazon Prime. I was like, you know what, let me see if there are any documentaries on Yahweh. So went in the search bar, typed in Yahweh, that came up. Went out and shared it on my platform. That was my night. In terms of the backlash or what people call it, we're in 2022. History is not supposed to be hidden from anybody. And I'm not a divisive person when it comes to religion. I embrace all walks of life. You see it on all my platforms. I talk to all races, all cultures, all religions. And my response would be, it's not about educating yourself on what Semitism is and what anti-Semitism is. It's really about learning the root words of where these come from and understanding that this is an African heritage that is also belonging to the people. Africa is in it, whether we want to dismiss it or not. So the claims of anti-Semitism and who are the original chosen people of God, and we go into these religious conversations and it's a big no-no. I don't live my way like that. I don't live my life that way. Excuse me, I grew up in a melting pot, and I say a melting pot of all races, white, black, red, yellow, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, and you can see the way I live my life now. I'm not here to be divisive, so they could push their agenda. I don't want to say they, because I'm not identifying any one group or race of people, but I'm in a unique position to have a level of influence on my community, and what I post does not mean that I support everything that's being said or everything that's being done, or I'm campaigning for anything. All I do is post things for my people in my community and those that it's actually going to impact. Anybody else that has criticism, it obviously wasn't meant for them.
Hopefully I'm understanding what you said, and I want to make sure I get it right because I don't want to misquote any part of it.
I don't expect understanding from a media conglomerate group that sincerely talks about the game of basketball, and then we bring up religion as if it's correlative at times when it's convenient for people to bring it up. So please just be direct with your question so we can move on from this and I can talk about the game and go home to my son Elohim and my wife Marlene, okay?
Am I to take it that this was, what you shared was not something that you've even watched? This was, you did watch it, or either watch it or read it.
I had a lot of time to read a lot. Read a whole bunch. Good and bad about the truth of our world.
So then do you, I guess, understand or not understand those that might imply that that work had anti-Semitic leanings in it? I only ask this because the tweet is still up there, so I
We're in 2022. It's on Amazon, a public platform. Whether you want to go watch it or not is up to you. There's things being posted every day. I am no different than the next human being, so don't treat me any different. You guys come in here and make up this powerful influence I have over top of the adultery of, oh, you cannot post that. Why not? Why not? I don't hear an uproar on that. I'm not here to be divisive on what's going on this or that. I'm not comparing Jews to blacks. I'm not comparing white to black. I'm not doing that. That conversation is dismissive, and it constantly revolves around the rhetoric of who are the chosen people of God. And I'm not here to argue over a person or a culture or religion or what they believe. No, this is what is here. It's on a public platform. Did I do anything illegal? Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Did I do anything illegal? Did I hurt anybody? Did I harm anybody? Am I going out and saying that I hate one specific group of people?
And the next thing you knew, he was a mainstream story and he was at risk of losing his job as a basketball player. And the title of the documentary was From Hebrews, to Negroes. And if he had just tweeted it and the media didn't react with such insanity, probably no one would have watched it. I'm serious. Like it was a nothing thing, but they made such a big deal out of it that I remember watching the situation go down and going, okay, what is in this documentary that people are freaking out so much that the NBA has given him, you'll recall this, a list of 6 demands, a list of 6 action items that he must complete in order to return to the franchise, okay? Absurd. Do you remember this headline that was going on? This is what Kyrie Irving must do to get his life back for having tweeted out a link to a documentary that's available on Amazon. Not Jeff Bezos, but Kyrie Irving is at fault, not Jeff Bezos for making it readily available on Amazon. First set of things that he had to do. The first thing he had to do was he had to issue an apology for posting a link to the movie, condemn the harmful and false content, and make it clear that he does not have anti-Jewish beliefs. Secondly, he had to complete the anti-hate causes that the Irving and the Nets and the ADL, I'll keep that topic, we're going to talk about more of the ADL today, agreed upon in their joint release, which included a $500,000 donation toward causes and organizations that work to eradicate hate and intolerance in communities. He was then told he had to complete sensitivity training created by the Nets. He was then told he had to complete anti-Semitic, anti-hate training designed by the Nets, and meet with representatives from the ADL as well as Jewish community leaders in Brooklyn. And the last one was after completing steps 1 through 5, he had to meet with the owner of the Nets, Joe Tsai, and lead franchise officials and demonstrate the lessons that he learned. Okay, so this was just like a whipping, a public whipping. It made entirely no sense. And I don't think he actually ended up doing any of that, because then there was outrage and outcry, rightfully so, from the Black community going, what are you doing?
You responded to Joe Tsai's comment about Kyrie on Twitter. What about that bothered you? And what about Joe Tsai's comment, and then what, if anything, that the league has done has bothered you?
Yeah, his response was alarming to me. I tweeted it out yesterday. He didn't say that the organization was working together to get Kyrie back on the floor. He said that he had more work to do. And our society has more work to do, including Joe Tsai. And it's 2022. It takes 10 minutes of time to see who, these business owners, corporations, etc., who they're associated with, who they're doing business with, and who they're affiliated with. And I'm vice president of the union, and it's part of my job to protect our players legally. And to see Phil Knight first come out and condemn, Kyrie, and also see Joe Tsai say he has more work to do, I think it's time for a larger conversation. And Adam came out and said a statement that he doesn't believe Kyrie Irving is anti-Semitic. Yet he's still suspended indefinitely. So those are my thoughts.
So when I hear what Kyrie Irving has to go through in order to be reinstated, I'm appalled. I'm appalled. And let me give you examples of how I feel like we don't have the same energy and hold other people who have dealt with racial tropes accountable. So when Sarah Silverman does blackface, or when Don Imus says nappy-headed hose, or when Howard Stern calls somebody the N-word in the skit, or when Brett Favre takes money from the state of Mississippi, we don't ask them to get sensitivity training. We don't ask them to donate $500,000. We don't ask them to meet with the Black National Caucus. They apologize. And then, you know what? The rest of the world moves on. But what I feel like is happening here, and that's how in the Black community, like we've been told that's how the process works, right? Think about that, Britt. That's how the process works. Oh, somebody does a blackface. Oh, it was a misunderstanding. We got it. Okay. Is that person really racist? Probably not. Was it ignorant? Probably so. Okay. We understand it. We move forward. We don't like it. We would love to hold them accountable. But society, and having a lot of Black people in positions of power, we don't have the governability to do that. But what we feel like happens with Kyrie is even after an apology, it's not enough. We feel like there needs to be more. And a lot of people I've spoken to over the last couple of days talk about this thing. Older mentors of mine talk about buck breaking.
And of course, because of the way my brain works, when I see the media overreact, I just go, what's in this documentary? I mean, I think that's called the Streisand effect. Like when you go so crazy about something that people wouldn't have noticed, then suddenly go, okay, well, what am I not supposed to see in this documentary? And I, of course, instantly watched it. And it was, by the way, very poorly put together, which is why it made it even crazier. It seems like a very budget film that was put together. It looks almost like a PowerPoint, to be honest. And I remember watching this going, how could this documentary have caused this much craziness in the media? And then I realized that the point of the documentary that it was making that upset, and this is why the ADL got involved, was the documentary makers, that is, were alleging that the current Jewish people that are in Israel are not in fact the biblical Jews, and instead that the people that were brought over in the transatlantic slave trade from Africa to America were the original Hebrews, okay?
So please keep that same energy when we're talking about anti-other things. Because just because I post a documentary doesn't mean I'm anti-Semitic, and doesn't mean that I'm automatically standing with everyone that is believing in that. So it's unfortunate timing that we're in, but I'm glad that I could stand on the truth, because I'm not afraid of these mics, these cameras. I used to be, looking everyone in the eye and telling them the truth, but I'm proud of who I am. Any label that you put on me, I'm able to dismiss because I study. I know the Oxford Dictionary, you look it up, right? One of the biggest mistakes I had in being a kid was not knowing European or Western language until I started looking it up and understanding the definitions and why they say, if you want to trick a black person, put it in a book. I was wondering my whole life why they said that. Now I'm 30 years old and I know reading is a superpower because it helps me understand where I'm going and where I come from, like a tree with roots.
Kyrie, the documentary listed among falsehoods, it said the Holocaust didn't happen. Do you believe the Holocaust
Those falsehoods are unfortunate, and it's not that I don't believe in the Holocaust. I never said that. Never, ever have said it. It's not come out of my mouth. I never tweeted it. I never liked anything like it. So the Holocaust in itself is an event that means something to a large group of people that suffered something that could have been avoided. No one said we had to practice racism. No one said we had to treat each other like garbage. No one said that I had to stand here today and understand that many people that come from generations 60 years ago, 40 years ago, enslaved some of my ancestors still, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, and it's still going on. And you guys are asking me, respectfully, to speak on something that was a documentary that I had nothing to do with. I didn't make it. So just please keep that same energy when you guys are addressing me.
Kyrie, for the record, do you have any anti-Semitic beliefs?
Again, I'm going to repeat. I don't know how the label becomes justified because you guys ask me the same questions over and over again. But this is not going to turn into a spin around cycle of questions upon questions. I told you guys how I felt. I respect all walks of life and embrace all walks of life. That's where I sit.
I think what people want to hear, though, is just a yes or no on that question. Yes or no.
I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from.
They went out and tried to cancel this man, cancel his entire basketball career, because he shared a link. He, absent any commentary, he went into Twitter and he tweeted out an Amazon link to a documentary. Now, if the reaction that he got, if nobody reacted, I don't even think anyone would have seen the tweet, honestly. It was so absurd. And it was a tweet to a documentary that was entitled From Hebrews to Negroes. And they just said, oh my gosh, he has to go through steps to be allowed back in the NBA. All he did was share a link to a documentary, I kid you not. And so here's what's really crazy, because I had to basically, when I was similarly being canceled for saying Christ is king and for me not agreeing with what's going on in Gaza, I got really educated about topics, and I was shook by the fact that they are canceling Kyrie Irving, Israel is, for information that actually came from Israel itself, or what was Israel, what was before Israel. It was really just Palestine before Israel became a nation. Look up Abraham Pollock. This is incredible. By the way, the thesis of that documentary is that these are not even the original Jews, that actually these are Khazars from a Turkic community. So there's this like Khazarian conspiracy theory, and they call this an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. I want to be clear, to suggest that the people that are occupying Israel today are Khazarian Jews, are the Khazarians are from like the kingdom of Khazaria, is an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. But now watch this. Skylar, pull up Abraham Pollock. And this is what I mean. It's the tricks that they play. Where did this anti-Semitic conspiracy theory come from? It came from them. It came from somebody who said, I want to figure out who the Ashkenazis are. And he was more than qualified to do it as an anthropologist. And he was living, Abraham Pollock, here we go. Abraham Nahum Pollock was an Israeli historian, a professor at Tel Aviv University, Since its inception, professor of medieval history and founder of the Department of Middle Eastern History. His main areas of research were Jewish history, Arab history, nations of Islam and Africa, and the history of the Khazars. Now scroll down, and again, I am doing this all live, so it might take a second here, but essentially he publishes a book and says, aha, I've done it, my research is over. Actually, we are the Khazarians, and we are from a Turkic tribe. And they had these Turkic tribes, the Ishkenaz, the Ashkenaz, and that's who we actually are. I want to be clear, this book was published, the book called Khazaria, History of a Jewish Kingdom in Europe, and he states that the Khazars were the demographic foundation of the Jews who inhabited Eastern Europe, and this was such groundbreaking stuff that he did. Look at this. This is 1941. He says they then mass converted to Judaism. He was awarded. Tel Aviv University awarded him, thank you for doing this research. Again, this is before the modern state of Israel. And then, guess what? He also, you can see there, he served in the IDF, so we're not going to call him anti-Semitic, are we? He served in the IDF through the formation of the state of Israel. So this guy gets awards from Tel Aviv University, and now he's serving in the IDF when they just kick out a bunch of Palestinians. And after they do this, they say, stop publishing his book because it doesn't help what we are trying to do. That's on the Wikipedia page. I want this to be shown that this is on the Wikipedia page. The rabbi said we should stop publishing this book because it doesn't help our argument that we're now making that we are the original Jews. This is on this Wikipedia page, okay? So Kyrie Irving, in theory, could have just read this book, which was published by someone who received awards for the research that he did tracing the Ashkenazis back to this kingdom of the Khazars. And then they never removed his awards. They never called him an anti-Semite. They never said, well, we've debunked his scientific activity. In fact, the rabbis said, this is not helpful for us to say this, that we are Khazars, now that we have established the modern state of Israel. That's on this Wikipedia somewhere. You can scroll down. We should probably find it, saying that it was not helpful, I think was the exact terms. So when I saw this, I was just like, the actual audacity to attack Kyrie Irving, to give him 6 steps, to say that he's an anti-Semite for something that you know that your own historians published as fact and received awards for before the creation of the state of Israel, before you pulled this book, is asinine. It is absolutely asinine. And the more you will find little things like that, where the things that we are being called anti-Semites for, essentially, it's if you know anything about the history of the modern state of Israel, like if you learn about Bella Hadid's family and how they got the land and stuff, that is when they attack you the hardest. When there is a truth there is when they attack you the hardest. And there are tons of books. I've read more books like that came from former IDF soldiers and people that lived in Israel. And there are tons of historians who have written books to that effect. But I just wanted you to know, like, that is a level of gaslighting that they take part in now. Like, oh, the science, I guess it's like COVID, the science changed, the anthropologist was wrong, he never got his award revoked, but like, okay, whatever. Here it is in the Wikipedia page. Thank you guys for finding this. It reads, nonetheless, the same assumptions which Pollack presented in his book were the target of criticism in various circles because of their possible ramifications on the right of Jews to settle in Israel. As early as 1944, the Jewish historian Aaron Zeev asserted, quote, I do not know what enjoyment and dignity he finds in our Turkish Mongolian descent rather than our Jewish ancestry. And so they just shut it down. They were like, this is not okay, and they stopped publishing this book. So I just wanted to do a very late defense of Kyrie Irving because, like I said, the more you look into things, it's the lies, it's the deception, it's the audacity to try to ruin the lives of others when they discover something that is patently true, or at least you accept it as being a patent truth. If you've changed your history and decided that this is no longer relevant and that Abraham Pollack is a raging anti-Semite, fine. But you better hang him before you hang Kyrie Irving, is all I'm saying, because I'm getting a little bit tired about that.
What's your thoughts? Please be respectful with your comments. Also, please click the like, click the notification bell, and subscribe to this channel.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14 verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10.